Mamoru Hosoda, creator of Studio Chizu, which is responsible for such grounded and honest works as The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and Wolf Children, is not afraid to shy away from addressing individual conflicts and struggles of characters in a very intimate yet universally understood way, with a hint of sci-fi and fantasy thrown in for fun. His most recent film, Belle, starts out no different, with a story about a girl who lost her mother and is surrounded by silence and loneliness in a world which used to be full of life and music. This changes one day when her friend sends her a link to the VR world of You, an online space that promises she'll have the chance to become her true self. The consequences of internet fame and revealing yourself online bring major challenges for Suzu, as well as an interesting dragon beast into her life, and lead to what I feel was wasted potential of the story in favor for a simplified solution to CA and DV, as well as just overlooking like the main asset of the film, which is Suzu's character. Welcome anime friends. If you are new here, hi, my name is Phoenix, and there is one rule you must follow. Make sure to grab your cup because it's time to spill the anime tea. Today we're going to be diving into the intricate VR world of Belle and discussing how well it portrays one character's grief as well as growth in the story, but also falls into pitfalls when it tries to address really sensitive issues like DV and CA and how to help people who are going through that. Firstly, I will be talking about things such as child abuse, which I'll be abbreviating to CA, and domestic violence, which I'll be abbreviating to DV in this video, and how the movie Belle talks about or portrays it. Also, since I will be talking about the end of the film in detail, and it's impossible to avoid major spoilers, there's major spoilers for Belle the movie ahead. If you haven't watched it yet and you would like to, go to HBO Max right now. It's on there as of making this video, as well as, and most importantly, I will be leaving phone numbers on the screen, this part of the video, and at the end for anyone who needs resources in order to help someone who may possibly be going through DV or CA, or just to help anyone learn like the science of spotting it. So please look here and in the description down below for any information about that. So we're going to start with Suzu's story and her grief, and as well as her rebirth as Belle in the world of You. The loss of Suzu's mother is an important factor in the story as it drives every decision that Suzu makes as well as every struggle that she faces. In the beginning of the film, Suzu's life is pretty bleak. We often see her placed in compositions where she is alone, either in the corner or at the very center, sitting away from her friends, cleaning up in her house by herself. To contrast that, there are lots of moments where she is kind of surrounded in really cluttered spaces, and there seems to be like an emphasis on her mental state, particularly in her room where she is surrounded by tons of papers and notebooks of her writing down her thoughts about her mother passing, why she left her by herself, all of these different processes for her to figure out her own grief, as well as moments where she feels overwhelmed. There's one scene where she goes to karaoke with her friends, and then all of her friends try to pressure her to sing, and then she's just surrounded by these microphones. It feels like claustrophobic. It's like too much is going on, as well as when she goes to visit her friend later on in the film after she becomes Belle, and her friend's room is covered in books and screens. These moments and these things are emphasized for Suzu's character in a very honest and easily understood way, all told visually without like too much extra exposition. It also emphasizes the relationship that she has with the people in her life, how she emotionally and physically, literally physically distances herself from people that are in her life, like her father. She often runs away from him. Her friends, she often stands a distance from them, or she is viewing them from a distance. I do appreciate that the film doesn't try to romanticize Suzu's grief. It's shown honestly and realistically. It's never over dramatic. I particularly thought the part where she tried to sing and then she throws up because she can't sing, because it's something that is so difficult for her to do since it's so connected to her mother. And it made me feel for her character, not just feel bad for her, but actually kind of feel where she's coming from as someone who's like has social anxiety and has trouble like literally being able to speak at times because of like a mental like hiccup of like, I can't say this thing. Suzu literally can't sing because it's part of her grief. And that's why when the opportunity for Suzu to join the VR world of You, kind of feel like the desperation for her to like really find a space to express herself. When she clicks yes on that AS or alternate self that Belle calls it, that combines her image with the image of Ruka. Belle's character is also designed by infamous character designer Jin Kim of Disney fame. So if you ever thought, why does Belle look like one of the Frozen sisters? That's why. The first thing that Suzu, aka Belle, does as soon as she gets into the world of You is twirl around and sing. Now, this can be a little off-putting for some people. You know, it's just weird for like a character to just break out into song randomly unless it's a Disney film, which Belle is based off of Beauty and the Beast from Disney in 1991. But this actually serves a really important purpose that kind of gets lost over time that I want to bring up now because it provides a lot of context for the other parts of the movie that get overlooked. The reason that Belle sings as soon as she gets into the world of You is because You claims to bring out your inner desires, to bring out your true self. And even her friend later on discusses how the technology is always linked to the person. So at any given moment, they are able to reveal parts of themselves within this alternate world. And of course, as we saw through the other moments throughout the beginning of the film, Suzu's inner desire is to sing. It's to be able to express her emotions about her mother passing. It's to be able to feel comfortable in the state that she is in. And of course, the internet being the internet, she becomes an internet sensation overnight with people all over the world remixing her song and remixing her style and her character to help blow up her persona online, becomes dubbed the Diva of You. Of course, the first thing that she does is run to her friend's house and like talk about how she's getting a ton of criticism and feedback about her song and how it's like awful. Whereas her friend is like, this is awesome. You can get like, you know, money, you can get brand deals, you can do something really amazing, and you'll be able to do the one thing that you really love, which is sing, which is I think the reason why her friend sent her that link in the first place. Yeah, she was onto something. And of course, it's just very honest depiction of the internet. Someone who would just gain overnight instant success, trying to cope with all of these people now having eyes on you and criticizing, you know, the one thing that you love the most. And I've seen criticism of the world of You and Belle and how it's not really like futuristic. It's not really that far from where we are today. Like this could literally happen in the next year. The things like the metaverse already existing. Also, you know, the representation of the internet is very much based off of how the internet works like currently, like right now. Because all of this information is presented to you at one time and you can see all the videos, all the critiques, all the word bubbles popping up at the same time for comments and people talking over each other, and it just feels like that's the internet right now. Now that we know who Suzu's character is and like the movie has established her desires and who she is and her grief and everything that we need to know about her, let's talk about the next half of the movie, which kind of ignores all that in favor of this random story between Belle and the Beast. So yeah, remember all that setup and information about Suzu and her mother and how important their relationship was and how Suzu's only way of coping with that is by singing in her alternate persona of Belle in the world of You? Well, that kind of gets pushed to the wayside for this strange relationship between Belle and this random dragon beast guy that literally comes out of nowhere. The only reason that Belle seems to be interested in the beast is solely because of her own curiosity, since Beast kind of just ran into her space through being chased by the Justice League, the Justices, in order to reveal like who he is, because he's been beating up people in the game. He's like one of the best, so people want to know who he is. Of course, there's this one guy named Justin, obviously because he's the leader of Justices, you know, it's right there. Literally has this doxing machine, aka this light that unveils people, and he gets sponsorships for that because, as we all know, you know, doxing people or doxing yourself even is pretty profitable. I mean, you know, the whole thing with Dream has just happened. The weird thing about Belle and the Beast is that their connection could have easily been explained if given just like a little bit more context, either like through dialogue or subliminally, but instead they just don't explain it at all. They don't give an actual definition or reason as to why Belle is so interested in the Beast, and it can be frustrating when we get this really great setup for this character and then, you know, another character comes along and there's no way to understand how they even have a relationship or why they even have a relationship. If Belle was able to see the Beast's inner desires and understand that, then that would have been a reason enough for us to be like, oh yeah, okay, Belle's like seeing something in him. Obviously, that's why she wants to know more about him. But no, she's just curious. That's it. Funny enough, she actually stumbles upon this image in his room of a woman in black whose face is shattered, who's wearing a rose, which is supposed to, I think the movie is telling us that it's supposed to be the mother of the Beast and how she passed away. It gets mentioned in this other part in the movie once we find out like who the Beasts actually are, which I'll get to in a second. Why was this emphasized twice, but it never gets addressed between Belle and the Beast? Belle never gives a reason why she wants to know who this person is. She just continues to ask them like, who are you? Who are you? Kind of almost too vague. I felt like it needed to be an extra part in there for us to understand. Both lost their mother. They're understanding their own grief and they're bonding over that possibly. It could have also been something more positive than that, since Hosoda is so keen on trying to represent the internet in a positive and optimistic way. Maybe they bonded over singing. What if the Beast sung? Do something interesting and different with the Beast story if you're gonna use it as like a plot structure. One major departure from the Beauty and the Beast, like Disney version, is the characters technically are not in a romantic relationship. After they have their whole dance sequence, Belle goes to kiss the Beast, but he shies away, so she hugs him instead, which is supposed to insinuate like their platonic relationship, like she sees him as a friend and she wants to help him. You know, also there's another character that gets introduced, Shinobu, who ends up being Suzu's crush and the actual romantic interest in the story. But, you know, I guess that still wasn't enough to keep people from seeing if they would actually end up together. In the end, because of what I'm about to talk about, I'm glad that they did not give the Beast and Belle a romantic relationship, because I felt like it would have been very inappropriate. But don't worry, this is not the messiest or most confusing part of the story. No, that award goes to the very conclusion of the film, which I will now break down. So quick content warning, again, I will be discussing CA and DV. So after Suzu and her friends find out the Beast's identity through some superhuman deduction that feels a little too convenient. I mean, literally, Suzu like thinks of these kids that she saw twice on like the internet, which is full of a bunch of images of kids and people that she had to scour through, and her like desire to try to find out who the Beast was. She particularly remembers these two kids somehow, and that's how they're able to deduce who they are. One of the kids is randomly singing her song that she only sang with the Beast on a live stream. So they find a live stream, discover why the Beast has so many scars and why he is so like distant from everyone. Basically, the Beast ends up being this young boy named Kei, who is the protector of his younger brother Toma, who actually ends up being the angel in You. Kei protects Toma from their physically and verbally abusive father. As Suzu reaches out to them to say that she will help them, Kei retaliates by saying, like, people always say they're going to help, but nothing ever changes. So, like, if you're not going to do anything different but say that you're going to help, then I don't want your help. And then he closes the call. You know, action literally speaks louder than words. Because the kids disconnect the call, Suzu's stumbling on what to do, and Shinobu tells her that the one thing that she could do is sing. Particularly sing as herself in You instead of as Belle. Because if the boys see her sing as herself, they're going to know that she is Belle. They're going to know that they can rely on her and trust her, because they did trust her at one point. You can reach them through her music, which I think is a great thing to do. It is part of the action thing. Like, she's showing them that she is there for them by revealing who she is and wanting to help them. And it is one of the most gorgeous parts in the film by far. I think even in Hosoda's directing career, like, it's one of the most amazing film moments that I've seen in an anime in a while. The art direction, the composition, lighting, the way that the characters singing, like, their whole heart and chest. I watched it in English, so Kylie McNeil did like a phenomenal job. Just even the reservation in Suzu's voice as she is singing as herself for the first time, incredible. Who knew that showing a bunch of metaverse animal personas singing along to one girl's deepest emotions would just make me sob uncontrollably? You would think that would be the finale of the film. You can tell so much emphasis was put into that part. However, there's more. They added more, even though I feel like it could have ended here and they could have found a way to reach out and protect these kids over the internet. Instead, they decided to reach out to them in person, which would have been okay if not for what happens next. And Kei and Toma see Suzu singing as herself and understand that she is the one that has been trying to reach out to them and help them all along. And so they turn on the stream again and they contact her and they tell her, yes, we will accept your help. And they're going to give her their address, when, of course, because it's a movie, the father steps back in and shuts down the stream. And then the movie again coincidentally provides like these little crazy sleuthing techniques that these kids somehow are able to do in like 5 minutes to find out where the kids live. I mean, luckily Suzu's there, her friend is there, her crush is there, and her other two friends have just confessed their love to each other are there, which I thought was a really cute, funny moment in the film. They all came with her and ended up being witnesses to what happened to these kids, as well as, of course, 4 or 5 choir ladies who are in the choir with Suzu. And of course, the adults, the first thing that they thought to do was call the police as soon as they found out where the kids lived, which was this in some random district in Tokyo, I believe. But of course, the police said that, you know, they had to wait 48 hours before they could send someone out to check on the kids, which is really messed up. If someone says someone's in danger and they can't send anyone for a whole 2 days, that is very upsetting. they decide to do something else. They decide to go out and find the kids. Like, it would have been totally fine if all of the adults, and maybe even Suzu, since she's the main character of the story, went out to go and like themselves and go help these kids. That's not what the movie does. Instead, the adults take Suzu to a train because all of the other like Shinkansens and airplanes are not available to get there at that time. They let her go and do this on her own. Not only is it extremely dangerous to suggest that a single person, let alone like a child or a minor, go alone to confront someone who people know is dangerous and violent by themselves, but it also goes against what I felt the film was trying to say, like, in the first place. Why show this moment between Suzu and her mother twice? Why emphasize what Suzu's mother did selflessly, go help this child who was going to drown but lost her life in the process? Why bring that up again? Only to suggest that this child go alone to confront someone who is dangerous. I would think that because her mother went off alone and lost her life, because something bad did happen to her mother because of that, that the film would actually say, like, since we've been building up these relationships, since we've been showing Suzu having relationships with the people in her life, becoming closer to them, as well as finding herself online, like how that's helped her create stronger bonds with the people in her life, even her father, which she's able to do like on the bus ride to the place. Think that it would emphasize bringing people together, like helping to help these kids. You would think that they would want more people to go with Suzu to help these children out, especially since it's such a dangerous situation, but they don't. Like, I know it's not real life. It's an animation. It's a story. Like, I get it, but you can't use real life situations that happen all the time, like DV and like CA, irresponsibly. If you are going to show like someone who's going to go help these kids, then you need to have a level of like understanding and sensitivity about how that process actually works. And if you are just doing it for the film, like if you are just showing these aspects for shock value or whatever, at least provide actual resources for people who are going through these circumstances to find help, or to allow other people to help them. So I want to talk about how the film addresses Suzu going out to find the boys and try to help them, and how if some adults went with her, if the choir women specifically, because they were the only adults there, her father didn't know about the situation until she was already on the way, so I can't blame him. Since the choir women knew about what was happening, if all of them, or even just one, went with her, how that would have helped clarify a lot of things that felt wrong and confusing at the end of the film. So Suzu goes all the way to Tokyo. She arrives, I guess, in the morning and stumbles upon the kids. What if the choir woman went with her, split up to find the kids, instead of, Suzu just stumbling upon the kids after like looking for like 2 minutes, which is very coincidental. Having multiple people looking for the kids would make more sense. The area of where these kids could possibly be is still very huge. Like, all they know is that it's behind these 2 buildings. There's a whole neighborhood behind that. How would they know where they are? So what if they went off at first and they were asking around to see if anyone knew about the kids and where they possibly lived? And then, of course, Suzu could still stumble upon Toma and Kei on her own. They can have their moments. As for the moment where Kei's father comes and attacks them, I believe the reason the film decided to let Suzu deal with this on her own, or deal with that moment in particular on their own, even though they didn't have to, even though there could have still been adults there, or at least in the same vicinity, it's because they wanted to show Suzu's character growth, her way that she's connected to her mother and how she's standing up for people even when situations are dangerous, which is good for her character growth and showing that, but not for actually handling what comes next. First, she's protecting the kids by like just holding on to them, and then the father is like hitting her, attacking her. At one point, she just gets up, turns around, and looks him in the eye and doesn't back down as he is trying to hit her. And visually, what I think this is trying to represent is because the boy's father is an abuser, a main trait of abusers is to exert their power over their victims. And because Suzu looked him in the eye and didn't cower away from him, he lost some of that power. As we saw, like he was powerful when the kids were cowering away from him, because Kei always had to cower away from him in order to protect Toma. But no one has stood up to him and actually looked him in the eye, and therefore that is why he cowered away. Like, because at first when I watched that scene, I was like, that's some BS. Like, why would they just show that type of approach to dealing with this abusive person. I understand why visually, from a movie standpoint, why they did that for Suzu's character, because it's the only thing that she could have done since she was by herself. If this is real life, if this ever happens to you or someone you know in real life, do not ever do this. If you are ever face to face with an abuser who is possibly going to hurt you, you need to get away if possible. Get away or protect yourself. Be in the fetal position like they were. Also call for help if you can, if you are outside like they were. There's multiple different situations, but do the best you can to protect yourself, as well as if there are children around you, to protect the children. Do not just face off against an abuser because you saw it in a movie. It is not guaranteed to work. And also, this is a very idealized way to portray it. I know people can distance themselves from what is real and what is shown in a movie. I mean, like, this isn't the first time that they've done an oversimplified approach to CA and DV in movies. Since children watch this, and since children may possibly watch my video, or not even just children, but some people can't differentiate themselves from real life and movies. I want to implore you to do the best to stay safe if possible. I don't want to discredit anyone's knowledge or intellect. I just want to emphasize that this is not the way to handle how to deal with someone who is violent towards you or someone you know. Let's see how if the women from the choir club all went with Suzu as they were, looking around, and this event possibly still happened because, for the movie setup, we'll just say this event still happens with Suzu staring down Kei's father. And then they could have all had the women come back or be able to find Suzu. And maybe they also were able to find a police officer who was wandering around the neighborhood on duty. Or maybe they were able to find someone who was just wandering around and tell them these kids are in trouble. They could have heard the yelling going on because the father was yelling the entire time. They could have all gone to help the kids. As everything else that's shown in this film, I don't think it would be that far-fetched to have the choir women find someone who would be willing to help them in the situation. They should be able to arrest Kei's father on the spot, since he assaulted Suzu, he physically harmed her in public. Other things could have happened. He could have cowered away, but then come back and harmed them. That's why having adults there to help them, and numbers, of course, having numbers of people there against this one person would help in the situation. And then, that would clarify what happened to Kei's father immediately, because, if we saw a police officer, if we saw someone, taking down Kei's father, then we would know that he probably would go to jail, and there would probably be at least some kind of process of getting the kids to a safe location, instead of us just seeing Kei and Suzu have this moment at the end, which is great. They should have that moment still, but the audience should know what it becomes of them at the end, because after that moment, there is no other mention of them. Shinobu's Suzu, you were great for saving those kids. You're amazing. And then it just ends with them about to sing a song. What happened to the kids? Why was this the lead up to the end of the movie and we don't know what actually happened to the kids? At the end of the day, I'm looking at everything in hindsight. I am not involved in the making of this film, nor was I ever. And I know there's probably lots of things that were cut for time constraints. Whole teams of people work to write these scripts, create these movies, and the setting and the feel of it. And there's just lots of things that go on behind the scenes that I just do not know. So I have no disrespect for everyone who worked really hard to create this film. I am a bit disappointed in Hosoda as a director, because he has shown that he's capable of portraying really honest depictions of other real life situations, like single motherhood in Wolf Children, which is one of my favorite movies. So why is it that there's so much emphasis in portraying this aspect correctly, which I and other people who like that movie are grateful for, but that was not given for the ending of Belle and how they portrayed CA and DV. That's what I'm mostly disappointed about. But let's move on to final thoughts. Okay, y'all, this was a really heavy topic to talk about for my channel. It's probably one of the most difficult things I've had to talk about, besides what's going on with the Made in Abyss creator. Yeah, thanks for sticking around. Sorry for getting so heavy on you. I just want to come in and say, I really love Belle in every other aspect. It really did speak to me, on a personal level, Suzu's character and what she goes through and how she's able to overcome her struggles because she's found a place where she can actually be herself and express herself. And I love that. I also love her character design, that she just looks like a regular, normal little, a kid, a teenager. And she embraces that in the end. I also have the soundtrack on repeat, Kylie McNeil's voice. It's phenomenal. She just did such a great job. I listened to the Japanese versions as well. I can't remember the Japanese voice actor and singer's name, but she helped to write the lyrics for the songs, and that's why she was able to put so much emotion into her singing and her performance, and I loved every aspect of that. If you watch any other review, which I highly recommend you do, there's some really good ones. I'm going to leave some in the description down below, like Kevin Ya's video, which is one of my favorite reviews. A lot of reviews kind of just glance over like this ending part of the film, or they don't address it at all. For the most part though, like I understand why people might shy away from talking about like this final aspect of the film. It's so difficult to handle like emotionally. I just wanted to bring it up so people could talk about their possible problems with it as well. And since the movie doesn't address or provide resources on how to actually help people who are suffering in these types of situations, which happen every day, and there are people that exist, lots and lots of people in Japan, in the US, worldwide, who go through this type of situation, and people who want to help, I will leave resources in the description below. For those of you who felt just as conflicted as I did about this part of the movie and want to discuss it, please feel free to do so below. Be understanding to other people. I'm also open to criticism. Just be polite about it, and I will talk to you about whatever problems that you had with things that I talked about. This was a really deep, heavy video. I have a much lighter video coming out soon. My name is Phoenix, like I said earlier, and I dive into the world of visual storytelling in anime and sometimes manga on a weekly basis. If you want to learn more about, or you want to hear more about me breaking down another anime movie that's way lighter and it doesn't talk about the things I talked about in this review, please check out this video up here where I talk about Children of the Sea, which is available on Netflix and is a really good movie. Thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe, protect yourself, protect others, and do the best that you can. Just do the best that you can. You don't have to do more than that. Yeah, thank you. I will see you in the next one. Peace.